Hi friends, this is the instructional video for the Ornament Create at Home kit from Molten Works Glass Studio. Now you have your kit in the scrapbooking box. When you open that up, you're going to have the brochure that tells you a little bit about creating, where to find your instructional video, which you're already watching, how to glue your project, which I will also show you, how to transport your projects back to us, then some FAQs for you. You also have a supply checklist that gives you a list of everything that we included in your kit. Now, once you open your kit, as far as materials go, you'll have your bag of mosaic glass. You have a bag of beads and curls. You also have 1 stick of white spiraled cane, 2 sticks of green spiraled cane, and then you'll have 2 sticks of red stringer. Now, as far as tools go, this is your glass cutter. Looks a little bit like a can opener. This is your runner. It pairs with your scoring tool. You want to remember that these 2 tools work together. Neither of them breaks the glass all by itself. You also have a pair of tweezers and a Sharpie. Now, the bowl you can use for scraps. You also have a pair of safety glasses in there, so you're going to want to put those on right now. And then you'll have a bottle of glue as well. And like I said, I'm going to show you how to glue your projects. And you also have the wooden board. Now, if you've been in the studio before, you know that we usually put our base pieces on this board. But since you're at home, I want you to use the board as your cutting board. So your board is going to be where you do all of your glass cutting. Now, you have 5 ornament base pieces in your kit. You have 2 squares, 1 rectangle, and 2 circles. So the first ornament that I'm going to show you how to make, so we are going over these 5 ornaments that we make. And so we are going to start by going with the reindeer ornament, and then I'll move through showing you how to make the other 4 designs with the ornaments. So let's start with this reindeer. Now for the reindeer, let's start with the fun stuff. You're gonna need, you could also dump all of your supplies in here. You're gonna need a couple of curls, because these are what make his antlers. You'll need 1 red bead for the nose and a couple of black beads for his eyes. Now in your bag of mosaic, go ahead and take out all of that glass and set that off to the side. Now we need, for this one, we need the brown mosaic. So first thing you're gonna wanna do is we're gonna use the scoring tool to cut out this triangle. And before we use the scoring tool to cut the glass, we're actually gonna draw that triangle directly on the glass with the Sharpie. The Sharpie burns off in the kiln, so we don't need to worry about a black line showing up on our final project. But make a triangle for the head of your reindeer. It doesn't have to be exactly pointy. It can be a little bit short and squatty. I'm also gonna cut this off because it needs to fit inside the base piece. But to cut this triangle, we're gonna use the scoring tool and the runner. The scoring tool scratches the glass, the runner breaks the glass. When we use the scoring tool, hold it up here where it's textured like you hold a pen or a pencil. Where the 2 angles come together at the bottom is a little wheel. That wheel needs to make contact with the glass. We're gonna remember 3 things when we use the scoring tool. Number 1, hold it almost straight up and down on the glass. 2, push down. And 3, push all the way across from one edge of the glass to the other, edge to edge. Very important when you're using the scoring tool. Now, to break this off, we're gonna use the runner. Make sure your gold bolt points up towards the ceiling. There's a gold line on top of your tool that you're gonna put on top of your scratch, so both lines go in the same direction. Now, I turned this around because I need a finger's width of glass on both sides of the tool, and a gentle squeeze like you're using scissors breaks the glass apart. Now for this one, I'm gonna reach way up so that I have as much glass as possible on both sides of the tool. Gentle squeeze like I'm using scissors to break the glass apart. Now to cut this off so that it fits on the base piece, you're gonna measure out about how tall or how long you want your reindeer head. I want mine about that tall. And I'm going to use my scoring tool again to cut off this piece. Hold it straight up and down, push all the way across from one edge of the glass to the other. Make sure your gold bolt points up towards the ceiling. Put your gold line on top of the scratch so they go in the same direction. I have a finger's width of glass on both sides of the tool. Squeeze like you use scissors to break the glass apart. Now it doesn't matter if the Sharpie is face up or face down, it's still gonna burn off in the kiln. You don't have to worry about that. Now we're gonna cut out our ears out of you can cut it out of one of your scrap pieces of brown, and I'm gonna use the glass cutters for these. Where the discs come together is the point at which they break the glass. And so I want some ear shapes. They kind of look like triangles. I'm gonna put the discs about halfway in between the edges here. I've got the glass cutter angled this way. Give it a clip. And then I have this piece that I can now trim down for my ears. Clip off another piece, and then I get to add that in for my ear. Now I'm gonna make another one. Now when we're clipping the glass, you may have noticed that it does fly everywhere. Another way to use your bowl, if you haven't, or if you have another bowl at home, take your bowl, and then if you have a washcloth or a towel or a rag, put your towel in your bowl. And when we clip, I want you to turn the discs up, facing up, because that's gonna make the glass go down into the bowl. And then that way it catches your scraps and they don't go bouncing all over the place. So then we're gonna lay that guy down there. There's my reindeer face. Now I'm gonna give Rudolph his nose, give him 2 eyes, and then now my antlers need to stay on the glass. So wherever you're gonna lay them down, make sure that you use your glass cutters to trim them. Now the curls are gonna roll until gravity holds them in place. So they can be a little bit squirrely and wiggly, but let them roll. Use your tweezers to separate them. Maybe scoot those ears around. If you don't want the black beads, you can use the white beads for eyes. As well, this might be a fun alternative for you. Now, if you want to give your reindeer some pupils, instead of trying to balance a bead on a bead, take your piece of mosaic glass, clip just a little chip. You're just going to need a couple of these. Take your tweezers, and you'll set those on the eyes. Now, one thing to note is that it's easier to, instead of setting the bead flat and trying to balance something on top of something round, turn your bead over so that the flat side is facing up, and then you'll take your piece of glass and set it on top, and that gives him his little pupils. So there we have our little reindeer. Now we want to glue this in place before we're going to move it. So the glue is to tack it down. It is going to take about an hour to completely dry. So don't glue, stick it in the car, and come to the studio. Make sure you give yourself some time. So the glue is very liquidy. You're going to get a lot of drops. So we're going to put a drop here where the ears meet the body, just right on the edge. We'll put a drop on top of the red reindeer nose. We're going to put a drop next to each eyeball. And then we're gonna glue our antlers down. You wanna glue at 2 points of contact with the glass. So that's usually the bottom of a curve and then at the end. So now that this is ready to move. So I'm gonna set this off to the side. So when you pick it up, give it a pinch. Set that one off to the side. Now it is time for ornament number 2. All right, now we're gonna go with a round one. We're gonna make ourselves a Santa belt. Now, so you'll need a round base piece. You need your transparent red, and you are going to need your black for the belts. And you have a piece of yellow in there to get the belt buckle. So now we're gonna start with the red. So to create the circle, we're not gonna cut out one complete circle of red. We're actually gonna do it in 2 halves. So on the narrow end of your red piece of glass, I want you to divide your circle in half, and we're gonna trace all the way around that edge. Now when we cut out this shape, we're gonna use the scoring tool and the runner again. We can use this scoring tool for a curve, and when you cut out your curve, I want you to lift your elbow up. You're gonna move your whole arm like you're steering a bicycle or stirring a big pot of soup. We're also gonna do this in 2 scratches. We're not gonna do this in 1 scratch. So I'm gonna draw the direction that I'm scratching on the glass so that you have a visual of it here on the video. So I'm gonna start over here on this side. I'm gonna go this way and right off the top of my circle there. My second scratch is gonna start down here, and I'm gonna come out this way. And I'm either gonna go all the way across, or I'm gonna stop where I hit the scratch. It's whichever one is gonna feel right. But we're gonna do this in 2 scratches. So, remembering our 3 things about our scoring tool: hold it almost straight up and down on the edge of the glass. 2, push down. And 3, we're going all the way around. Remember, just like stirring a big pot of soup, and then out the other side of the glass. Now I'm gonna scratch my other side again. Remember, stirring a big pot of soup, and I can feel myself hit the scratch, so that's where I'm gonna stop. Now to break it off, if you find yourself squeezing really hard with the runner, make sure that your gold bolt points up towards the ceiling. Make sure your scratch is an extension of that gold line, and get yourself a fingers with the glass on both sides. So to get more glass on both sides, I'm actually gonna go from the other end. I've got lots of glass on both sides of the runner. Squeeze to break my glass apart. Now I have a scratch here, so I'm gonna use my runner again. You wanna be where you have as much glass as possible on both sides of the tool, and squeeze like you're using scissors. Now if you end up with a little piece out here that's not completely round like I did, take your glass cutters and clip those pieces off. So now we have half of a circle for our Santa belt. It's okay if you see a little bit of the edge around a little bit of the base piece on the outside of that circle. That's totally okay. You're not gonna notice that when it comes out of the kiln. Now we need to make our other half. So, same thing, but on the other side of this base piece, or other side of the red piece of glass. Now, for your visual, I'm starting here. I'm gonna come out that side of the glass, and then I'm gonna start here and come out that side. When we use our scoring tool, we know what 3 things we need to do. Now there's 2 words that I want you to remember. You need to use your scoring tool with confidence and determination. So instead of going slow, have confidence and be determined to get all the way to the other side of the glass. Don't go slow, try not to stop, and then use your runner to break off the glass. Now, fingers width on both sides. My gold bolt is pointing up towards the ceiling. I'm gonna give that a squeeze. Now over here where I have as much glass as possible, and I get that shape. Now again, I have my little edge over here. You can choose to leave it, or you can choose to clip it off. You may feel and see a little bit of texture when you use your glass cutters, but that edge is gonna melt smooth in the kiln. So don't worry about that little edge on the glass. Then we take our round base piece and we put our 2 circles together. Now I know it doesn't look exact, mine doesn't look exactly like the shape of the base. That's okay. It's okay if yours doesn't either. But I do see that I'm hanging over a little bit. So I am gonna clip off this edge just a tad bit more. Couple of clips, and I bring that together. So this is the red part of my Santa belt. Now we're gonna make the black belt part. So I want you to take that piece of black mosaic, should be exactly wide enough to go all the way across and get a belt out of this. So your Santa belt can be as fat as you want it. It can be wide, it can be skinny, up to you. Now we're gonna scratch all the way across from one edge of the glass to the other. Now if I draw on the black glass with the Sharpie right here, you won't be able to see it. But when you use your black glass at home, you will be able to see the reflection of the Sharpie. It'll be shiny. So you will be able to see the Sharpie. It doesn't show up very well, but it shows up enough for you to see it. So I'm gonna start here on one edge of the glass, and I'm going all the way across. I want you to look at the spot that you're going to. So remember, almost straight up and down, push all the way across from one edge of the glass to the other. Now we need that runner. The scratch is an extension of the gold line. As long as you have a little bit of glass over here, you'll be all right. Gentle squeeze like you're using scissors to break the glass apart. Now, we can only stack the glass up to 3 layers high. So something that we're gonna do right here is we're actually gonna cut this in half. And I'm gonna use your glass cutter. You can use your glass cutters for that cut. Now I'm gonna leave space because this is where I'm gonna put my yellow square. So now I'm gonna cut this much off. Make sure those glass cutters where they come together is halfway in between each edge. So there's that part of my belt. Now I'm gonna take my yellow. Now I have a good guide for how wide I want that belt buckle to be. If you trace the belt that you just made, you're gonna get the right width for your belt buckle. Now, scoring tool again for this. Confidence and determination all the way across the glass. Break that off with the runner. And now I need a square. And I'm gonna guess it's about as big as my thumbnail there. Give that a clip and set that in between my 2 black pieces. It's okay if they don't line up exactly. You can see that when I press this together, my belt buckle gets at a little bit of an angle. That's totally okay. You may or may not have gaps right there. Little gaps are fine. When this melts in the kiln, that's all gonna smooth together. Now to complete the look of the belt buckle, we're gonna make a smaller square. So with your glass cutters, on 2 sides of this, nip off 2 sides. Now you've made a smaller black square. You set that right on top. And that gets you your belt buckle. Now if we want to give Santa some buttons, or some snowballs, whatever these are, 2 beads. If you use your smaller beads, you might be able to get another bead down there. But that gives Santa his buttons. Now, let's glue this one down. Glue bottle, we're actually gonna take off half his belt because I wanna drop at where those 2 red circles come together. So put your drop out towards the edge. Then we put his belt back on. I'm gonna, where the mosaic meets the mosaic glass, we're gonna put those drops there and then a drop next to each of his buttons. So again, the glue takes about an hour to set. So pinch the edge of your base piece, which is another reason to not have your red reach so far, and then set that off to the side. All right, now let's make a snowman on a square. So this square is on, or this snowman is on the square. I've oriented this ornament on the diagonal. This gives me more space to make a bigger hat. And we're gonna use our base piece as our template to trace for the body and the scarf. So underneath his scarf, I'm gonna show you the bottom. This is a white triangle, and it's a little bit off center. It's not exactly a corner, but it's a little bit more. So when I trace that triangle, you want the ornament base hanging off a little bit. You can use the narrow side of your white glass if you want, and then you'll trace that corner. So that's gonna be the body of my snowman. Now, to make this a little easier to cut out, we're first going to make a smaller rectangle. So I'm showing you the dotted line because I'm going to cut that off using my scoring tool. So confidence and determination to get you all the way across the edge of the glass. Just a reminder, if you find yourself squeezing so hard, make sure that your gold bolt points up towards the ceiling. Get your fingers width of glass on both sides. Squeeze like you're using scissors. Now for these other two lines, scoring tool again, start on the glass all the way to the other side. On the glass, all the way to another edge. Break off those pieces. And now I have my triangle body. Now the head isn't quite square. It's a rectangle. So you're gonna make yourself a rectangle. So you can, again, if you would like, cut off another rectangle of the glass. And then I like to line it up and see just how wide I actually want my snowman head to be. So I'm gonna draw a line right here. That's how wide I want my snowman head. Scoring tool, push down, push all the way across, break that off, and that gives me my snowman head. You know what? I'm actually gonna make this a little bit shorter. I don't want his body quite so big. I'm gonna be able to cover this up with the with his scarf, so I won't see that. Now I have space for his top hat. Now parents, when you're working at home with these, or on these with your kids, one thing that you can do is use the scoring tool and let them use the runner. Sometimes the scoring tool requires a little bit more pressure than kids are able to do, but they can still use the runner. So that might be a way to pair up so they get to do a lot of glass breaking, which is kind of fun. So we like to break the glass. Now, I don't want my hat to come over the top of that corner. So I want my hat to be this wide. Now I know you can't see that, but I made a measurement for myself using my scoring tool. Now again, this could be the parent's job. Then let the kid use the runner. They've got enough space, and give it a clip. Now I want this a little bit shorter. So if I wanted it shorter, and you're going to have, if you want it just a teeny bit shorter, remember we need glass on both sides of the tool, but we can use our glass cutters to cut that off. So reach up into the glass, start in the middle of the glass, and that actually makes kind of a fun shape. So I'm gonna let it make that shape. Now I'm gonna give his hat a brim. And to do that, we're gonna have to cut a fairly thin piece of glass, if you would like. And one way to do this is to actually make two scratches side by side. Then I want you to break off the second scratch. Now I have a piece of glass that has a scratch right down the middle. So as long as we have an even amount of glass on both sides of the scratch, we can give that one a squeeze, and then we can make a brim of the hat. I'm gonna shorten this up a little bit using my glass cutters. And then I give him the brim of his hat. Now, put some blue or some green in there. You can make your scarf out of whatever colors you wanna work with. But the scarf is a triangle that's just about the same shape as the top of this piece here. So we can use his body to create his scarf. It's gonna be okay if his scarf is a little bit longer or wider than his body, because that way his scarf won't show up around the edge of the body. Scoring tool again for our longer scratch. Push down, push across. I'm gonna turn it around so I get more glass on both sides of the tool and give that a squeeze. Now for this little piece, we can use our glass cutters. Give it a clip, and then when I set this piece down, that gives him his scarf. And you can make another little piece for the other part of his scarf, but this also will give you another piece so it looks like his scarf has two ends. Now, the fun. Let's give him a face. Maybe let's give him a nose. On your piece of orange, a clip with the glass cutters is gonna give him a triangle for a nose. And then in the curls that you got, you're gonna have some fatter ones, and you can use those for his eyes. So clip off little short pieces. And as we're gluing these down, I'm gonna show you another gluing technique. Take a scrap piece of glass, put a couple of drops of glue on it, and then pick up your piece of glass with your tweezers, dip it in the glue, and set it on the design. Dip it in the glue, set it on the design. Now, like I said, the glue doesn't set right away, so you can still make lots of adjustments if you need to scoot those eyes into place. And then with the curls, find a good one for a smile or give him a frowny face. Totally up to you. But there is our snowman square. Now, to glue it down, we want to glue where the mosaic makes contact either with the base piece or with another piece of the mosaic. So I'm going to put those here, and where the nose meets down here. Make sure I get his scarf glued down. Tip that back a little bit. Oh, now I just realized that he might need a little decoration on his hat. So I'm gonna give him a red bead, just right there. That's gonna need a drop of glue as well. And now we have made our third ornament. So pinch from the edge, pick that up, and set it aside. Now we've got another snowman to make. We're gonna make this round guy. Again, your circular base piece is gonna become the bottom, is gonna be the template for your circle. So take your piece of white, and you're gonna trace that circle. Okay. 1 second. I'm gonna put a Dixie cup in there for you. So leave it hanging off the edge a little bit. Trace the top of that Dixie cup, and that's gonna be the head of your snowman. Now, when we cut this out, we're gonna be able to use our scoring tool. We should be able to use our scoring tool for most of it. And when we do that, we're not gonna be able to do it all in one swoop, but I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna come out the top. I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna come out the top. So we're gonna start with those two scratches. Push down, push all the way across. Push down, push all the way across. Now when we break those off, I'm gonna go from this side because I'm gonna have more glass on either side to break those off. Now when I scratch across, and I'm trying to do this, if you don't stay exactly on your black Sharpie line, that doesn't matter. That's not what we're trying to do. Oh no, now I ended up with some little points, but I can clean those up with the glass cutters. For little pieces like this, when you're doing some fine tuning, use the glass cutters. The runner isn't gonna work because you don't have enough glass on both sides. So glass cutters, clip off those corners that you don't want, and a couple of clips. You don't need to grind it down until it's really smooth, because that's gonna get nice and smooth in the kiln. So let the heat of the kiln do the work for you. So then we have this piece. Now we're gonna need to get rid of those little pieces of glass, those little corners down there as well. So again, for the small pieces like this, glass cutters, clip off those corners. We don't even need to make them more precise than that. So now we've got our snowman. Now, for his nose, we're gonna do a triangle, and we want the triangle to start in about the middle of the glass, go all the way out to the edge. So if you need to measure that, you can. We're working on the opposite side of the glass from where we clipped our other snowman's nose. So we want our snowman's nose to be about that tall. So now I'm gonna draw a triangle. And now I have learned that I like a little narrower triangle for two reasons. One, I just like a skinnier triangle. But two, when it melts in the kiln, it gets fatter. So it's okay if you think it's a little too skinny, because it's gonna get fatter in the kiln. So I'm gonna go from one edge all the way out to the other. From one edge all the way out to the other. With my runner, break that off. Now I have my nose. Now, one thing that will happen when this melts in the kiln is that the nose, there's nothing there, so it's gonna fall down and look like he has a little step in his nose. But you can fix that. I want you to use your glass cutters, make yourself a little triangle, and you're gonna put a baby nose and then the fat nose. And then that way your nose will stay flat and look like it's sticking up. Now we're gonna give him some eyes. And he needs a smile. Let's see. There's a good one. So we included a variety of curls, so you can do different ways to have your snowman smile. Now, to give him some rosy cheeks, these are you have a piece of cherry red spiraled cane. And we want a little cross section of this so we get a little twirly spiraled cane. You could also lay it down on its side if you wanted to. Clip off a little piece. This is where you might want to dip and stick. Now, if we want a little swirl, like in the example, hold this cane straight up and down on the glass, put your tool face down right on the board, and give it a clip. Now you have a little cross section. Dip and stick for his rosy cheeks. Now, for some snow, I have included a piece of white spiraled cane, and you can use spiraled cane on its side, but I'm also gonna show you how to use spiraled cane on end. Just like the cherry red, hold it vertical against the table, put your tool right on the board, and we're gonna march along. This way, the little pieces don't go flying all over the place. We don't like that. Now, you can set them randomly all over the base piece, and that will get you some snow. We can also use some of your white mosaic that you have. That's the flat white glass. If you clip up small pieces, that will also make some snow. And when I say clip up small pieces, you can clip them up as small as you would like. If you have another idea with how to fill in this clear space. You could leave it empty. But if you have another idea on how to fill it in, you're welcome to try that as well. So now we've made some snow, and we have our smiley face, rosy-cheeked snowman. Now we gotta glue this guy down. Bottle of glue, where mosaic meets mosaic, and where mosaic meets the base. Where the beads meet mosaic, I'm gonna glue where the mosaic meets the base, and then his smiley face needs some glue as well. Pinch from the outside, lift that up, and set that down. So that is our fourth ornament. Now, you have one rectangle base piece. You can use it this way, you can use it this way. I am gonna show you 3 different tree designs that you have the material to create with. So we've got 3 different trees that we can make. I am gonna start with this one. So this is a triangle of green glass. The base piece is vertical. Now, you'll notice that the base for the ornament is the same length as this green piece of glass. We do have to make it a little bit shorter, but not a lot. And we can make it shorter when we make our triangle. So one thing that you can do is to know how wide your triangle can be, set that base piece on top, make a little mark where the edge of your base piece is, and then on the other side, when you make your mark, make a mark about halfway in between. That's gonna give you the top of your triangle. Doesn't have to be perfect. When this melts in the kiln, it gets a little soft and squishy anyway, so your line doesn't have to be precise. But now we connect the dots, and I connect the dots a little bit below the edge of my glass, and that way I know my triangle is gonna be shorter. Scoring tool, push down, all the way across. Push down, push all the way across. Gold bolt up, scratch is an extension of your gold line. Get your fingers with the glass, squeeze like you're using scissors. Make sure you got lots of glass on both sides of the tool. And now we have our triangle tree. Just make sure that your triangle then fits inside the edges of your base piece. And now we get to decorate. You can use your beads. You've got red, black, white beads to use. I don't know if you want to use black beads as well. You can take some of your white spiraled cane to measure out the length that you want. Hold it above the piece, get your measurement, put your fingers right next to where you want it, and you're gonna clip right there. No one has ever clipped off their fingers using the glass cutters, knock on wood. I'm gonna make a couple more of these pieces of white spiraled cane. And one more, a short piece. I might need my tweezers for this one to dip and stick. So that gets me my decorations for that. You can also use your red stringer to decorate your tree. Now stringer we get to break with our hands. So measure out the length that you want, break that off, then lay your piece down. It's okay that if it hangs off the edge a little bit, I'm not too worried about that. Dip, stick. Now I want a shorter piece up here. I'm gonna use my tweezers for this one. Dip it in my glue, stick it onto my glass. You can also, if you need to break off a little piece of your stringer, you can use your glass cutters as well, but you don't have to use your glass cutters when you're making bigger breaks on the glass. So that gets you your one way to make a tree. I did also include a couple of yellow beads. So if you wanted to put a yellow bead at the top of your tree, you can do that as well. So get your yellow bead up there. So that's one way to create a tree. Whoops. Oh no, I forgot to glue it, no wonder. See, that's what happens. Totally okay. We put it back together. We use our tweezers. We make some adjustments. Glue. Glue it where the mosaic connects with the base piece. Put a glue dot next to each bead. I'm gonna adjust this one a little bit. There we go. All right. I want it nice and straight. Yours can be crooked, totally okay. Now we've got it. Okay, so that's one way to make a tree. Now another way to make the tree is with your rectangle on the diagonal, this way. So now we're gonna make we're gonna make 3 or 4 different small triangles. Now, to measure out how tall I want these triangles, I'm gonna measure, I don't want them taller than the edge of my base piece. So I'm gonna make a mark where I know my base piece is, and then I'm gonna make a mark to tell myself about how wide I want that rectangle to be. So now here's another way to get a straighter edge. If you want a straighter edge, take a piece of glass that still has a straight edge on it, set it next to your mark. I want you to place your scoring tool first, bring the glass up to your scoring tool. We're still gonna push all the way across, but we're not gonna, so don't lean too heavily on that piece of glass, but that's gonna help you get a straight line. Now to break it off, runner, fingers with the glass. Now I'm gonna make a variety of triangles. You can make your triangles in whatever skinniness, thickness, fatness, shortness that you want. Make a zigzag across that piece of glass. Scratch, scratch, edge to edge. We made that rectangle so that we can use our scoring tool from one edge of the glass to the other. Now I'm gonna break these off. Confidence and determination. Don't worry if you can't break yours off as fast as I do. I get to practice a lot. So don't be so hard on yourself. Now I'm gonna use some of this white that I have for my other projects or other ornaments to make myself some hills. So I'm going to use my glass cutters. I'm gonna clip off the top of that rectangle. Can round that out a little bit. So lots of texture. Snow doesn't fall evenly anyways. That gives me a hill. Now I think I might want another hill, so I'm gonna use some of this glass. You're welcome to make your hills in whatever shape that you want. And it is okay when you make your hills that they don't nest together exactly. It's just kind of more the idea of a hill, because remember, it melts smooth and soft in the kiln, but that's gonna give my trees something to stand on. Now, I'm going to set a tree down there. I'm gonna put a tree over here. I think I want, oh, too tall, it sticks off the edge. Use your glass cutters. Clip that tree off there. Now, I want this to come a little bit closer to my hill, so I'm gonna clip off the edge. Use your glass cutters. This is how we do some of our finer detail work. That way that one sits next to the tree. Now, we can make ourselves a little forest by putting some trees on top and in front. And if you wanna give your trees some personality or some detail, maybe you don't want super sharp corners on your triangles, make some ruffles with your glass cutters. You can set those down. Now I'm gonna make a skinny tree right there. So I'm gonna make this shorter, glass cutters, and then I'm gonna give this a ruffle up the top. And then my tree is gonna go right there. Now, for some snow, spiraled cane, holding it vertical, clipping off these little pieces. I can also make some snow with my mosaic. Make little pieces. They're gonna look like they can look like pencil shavings. Now, oh, I'm all out of glue. A couple more drops, because we're gonna use the dip and stick method. So, take my white, dip and stick. Take the white glass, dip it, and stick it. Dip, stick. And so continue laying down your snow, laying down your winter wonderland scene, using those pieces of white glass as your snowflakes. You could also take some of these pieces and put them on top of your snowbank. They can go on, on top of your tree so that your tree can catch some snowflakes. Lay down those pieces and get your little snowflakes on the trees. Now, one thing to note, that we are on ornament number 5, and you may be a little bit frustrated if these are not turning out exactly the way you want. Take a deep breath. It's okay to walk away from the table and then come back. But just know that when we work on the smallest base pieces like this with fused glass, we really are challenging ourselves. This is not an easy thing to do because of the size that we're working on. Your lines may not be as crisp as mine. You may have some more ruffly edges because you used the glass cutter more than I did. But just know that your snow scene is going to come out wonderful. You're really going to enjoy it, and I do believe that you are going to have a beautiful ornament. I get to practice a lot. Now, one thing that you could do at the bottom of this, if you have some of your spiraled cane left over, is you could place a piece down here at the bottom of these trees as well. Now let's glue this down where the mosaic touches mosaic, or where the mosaic touches the base piece. So make sure we're getting all of those trees laid down. So now we have another way to work to create trees on that rectangle base piece. Pinch from the edge, pick it up, and set it down. Now there is a third way to make a tree, and that is with using your spiraled cane. So we're gonna use our spiraled cane. You've got 2 sticks of green spiraled cane. That should be plenty to make your tree this way. First thing we're gonna do is we get to start with glue on the base piece. So put yourself a stripe of glue right up the top. Now these are each pieces of spiraled cane, each one getting a little bit shorter than the other. Some of the pieces are the same size and some of them are shorter, but you're gonna start out by measuring just a little bit shorter than the width of your base piece and set that piece down. Now when I make these pieces, when I make this tree, you're gonna see that I go back and forth. Sometimes I end up with a shorter piece, sometimes I end up with a longer piece. But overall, what I am creating is a triangle. So each piece gets a little bit shorter. Now you'll probably use at least one of the sticks of spiraled cane. I included 2 just so you could have a little bit extra when creating your trees and your designs. But I didn't want you to not be able to make this tree. So each piece gets a little bit shorter. And right in here in the middle, I also came back it pinched so quickly that I'm gonna come back in and make another one that's about that size. So it's okay to make your tree as fat or as squatty as you want. See, I knew I'd need another piece. Now it's gonna start getting pretty small, probably only about 3 more pieces. Set that piece down. 1 more. I'm gonna get another small one in here. I need and stick. Now if you want to take one of your yellow beads and use that on top. Now we want to get a trunk in there. Now you can do a lot of scooting now with your spiraled cane in your tree to get that just right. And so you can make your tree as squatty or as big as you want. Now, we just need a little chip of this for our trunk. Use your glass cutters, clip off that piece. Oh look, I could have used that right there. And that gives me my trunk for my tree. Now you have red spiraled cane or red stringer. You can use that on this piece as well. You could set those right on top because they'll nest right in between where the 2 pieces of spiraled cane come together. So this might be a fun way to decorate your tree. Now if you can, you could get beads to balance on top. They might not balance on top. It's up to you if that's something that you want to try and do. You can also use your tweezers as well when you decorate with the stringer. These pieces tend to get a little bit squirrely, but you can use those to decorate your tree as well. Now again, you could add some snow around the edge. You could use some of your leftover materials to finish creating your design. But I'm gonna bring all 3 trees back up front and center on the board. So you get to choose, you have 1 rectangle base piece, and you choose which tree to create. So 3 different options for you as you create your ornaments today. Now, leave your ornaments that you just made on the board. I'm gonna move mine out of the way. And when we clean up, take the bag that all of your glass came in, put those big pieces back in the bag. If your recycler doesn't take small shards of glass or broken glass, put all of your glass back in the bag. We will recycle all those little pieces when they get here, but clean up. We're letting everything dry. I'm gonna put my beads back in my little bag. Now we've glued our pieces down. They're gonna need to sit for a while longer, but when you pack everything back up, you can get everything back in the bag, back in the box, and bring your projects back to me. When we will put your projects in the kiln, and when you come to pick them up, they will have a little hook on them so that you can put a ribbon through them and hang them up on your tree. So make sure to find the lid to your glue. Get that back on there as well. Okay, now I can sweep up my mess, but I'll be able to move all of this back into the box. So you are going to have 5 ornaments ready to go. So one of the 3 trees on a rectangle, and then you have 2 squares and 2 circles. So 7, if you can, get us your ornaments back within 7 days of picking up your kit. That way we can get them in the kiln and get back to you as soon as we can. But thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, give us a call at the studio, 425-999-2596. You can also shoot us an email, info@moltenworks.com, if you have any questions as well. But thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again.